chemicals and products that are harmful replaced with alternatives. So really ring fencing the product design part so that you have less pollution at the waste end, because no matter how much litter campaigns are done and push on consumers, unless the product design state changes, plastic pollution wouldn't be solved. And this will create other jobs. And, we're looking with many different governments about what are the kind of jobs that can be created from alternative materials, from different types of, requirements for product design, for reuse and refill systems, etc. And so circular economy is something that is taking off, not just in plastics, but minerals, in the textile space, all of which, of course, are important for Kenya, and where we have really enjoyed working with the Kenya government to see the kind of leadership that the government has been placing, and its drive for working with stakeholders, including with business across the value chain, to have win-win solutions for the economy and for the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sheila, and we appreciate your comments on the INC negotiation on plastic treaty, which is at the core of our discussions. We thank you so much. We appreciate your participation, and UNEP's presence reinforces Nairobi's vital role as a hub for global environmental governance and multilateral action. It is now my pleasure to welcome Mr. Ibuk Adewumi, the head of the UNESCO IOC Subcommission for Africa and adjacent island states, whose leadership continues to shape international ocean science and policy. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Excellencies, colleagues, and partners, I believe that this session opens a critical conversation, not just only on environment or ocean, but about the science, and also about African agency in shaping its future. The decision we make here must be guided by rigorous evidence, political resolve, and shared understanding that the ocean is no longer a peripheral issue. It is central to our survival, our sovereignty, and our prosperity. As the head of the UNESCO Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, Subcommission for Africa and the adjacent island states, I would like to begin with a clear high view of global ocean science picture. So over the past decades, ocean science has expanded significantly, driven by progress in satellite remote sensing, numerical modeling, autonomous observing platforms, and integrated data systems. These advances have deepened our understanding of ocean atmosphere interactions, biodiversity patterns, and coastal vulnerability. They have enabled earlier warning of extreme events, improved fisheries, forecasts, and guided marine spatial planning in many parts of the world. Yet, despite this progress, the fundamental structures that support ocean science remain uneven, fragmented, and in many regions under-resourced. The 2024 Global Ocean Science Report by the UNESCO IOC makes this clear. Ocean science receives just 1.7% of global research and development budgets, with some countries investing as little as 0.03%. Only 61% of countries have national ocean science strategies or dedicated roadmaps to guide long-term development. Over 70% of all peer-reviewed ocean science publication originates from just 10 countries, underscoring stark imbalance in capacity and knowledge production. This concentration of infrastructure and expertise not only distort the global research agenda, it perpetuates inequality in access to information, decision-making tools, and benefits derived from the ocean economy. The limited integration of ocean science into broader development planning, compounded by siloed institutional mandates and weak inter-ministerial coordination, further restrict its impact on policy. The global architecture for ocean science is, in many ways, still structured for research, not resilient for insight, but not always for inclusion. At the same time, the fragmentation of research efforts, underutilization of shared data system, and lack of long-term investment plans have limited the effectiveness of global responses. These challenges affect all regions, but they are particularly acute in low and medium income countries. In Africa, ladies and gentlemen, these challenges are not only present, they are profound. According to the 2024 Global Science Report, less than 5 African countries have formal national ocean science strategies. Only 32% of surveyed African institutions report access to sustained observing system, compared to 75% in Europe and North America. Alarmingly, Africa contributes less than 1% of global peer-reviewed ocean science publication and accounts for fewer than 10% of global ocean science personnel, despite housing over 17% of the world population and vast share of its maritime biodiversity. So this is not merely a question of data. It reflects a deeper structural imbalance, one that affects our ability to respond to coastal erosion, forecast climate extremes, and sustainably manage fisheries. Building on decades of foundational work, the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission of the UNESCO IOC has continuously advanced global efforts to strengthen ocean knowledge and cooperation through initiatives such as the Global Oceans Observing Systems, Ocean Best Practices Systems, Ocean Data and Information Systems, and its network of subcommission, including the IOC Africa Subcommission. The IOC has helped countries build their scientific capacity and integrate ocean knowledge into policy. One notable initiative within this broader ecosystem is the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. Aligned with the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the AU Blue Economy Strategy, the decade offers a platform to mobilize partnership, strengthen national priorities, and foster co-designed, demand-driven science. Instruments such as the African Ocean Decade Roadmap and the IOC Africa Seaworld Africa Program have provided institutional mechanisms for African countries to coordinate efforts, attract investment, and develop responsive, integrated data system. Also, at the national level, institutions like the University of Cape Town's Marine Research Institute are advancing globally relevant science on ocean-climate interaction. Also in Kenya, we can see the stellar effort from the Kenyan Marine and Fishery Research Institute that has been supporting the process of marine spatial planning development with the required science that it needs. Their work represents scalable models that can inform national strategies, strengthen regional networks, and anchor Africa ocean science agenda in credible, context-driven practice. And ladies and gentlemen, I must also stress that youth and women must be central to the transformation with clear targets to ensure that at least 40% of leadership roles in the ocean science program and 50% of new fellowship and training opportunities are accessible to them by 2030. Gender disparity in ocean science remains persistent. This commitment aligns with both the African Union Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Strategy and the UNESCO Priority on Gender Equity Action Plan. We believe that the next crop of workforce that is needed to drive the blue economy must ensure that they are actually having a space on the table and not just being informed. As the IOC Subcommission for Africa and the adjacent island states, we play a facilitative role in strengthening collaboration, aligning regional priorities, and ensuring Africa's voice is present in key global processes, such as the UN Ocean Conference that is coming in a few weeks, and also the plastic treaty negotiation. Our efforts focus on supporting member states in developing national ocean science strategies, promoting uptake of regional frameworks like the UN Ocean Decade. As a proposer, I would like to emphasize that we need to make ocean science a national security and development priorities. Investment in the people, investment in platforms, and partnership that would really translate data into resilience and research into sovereignty. We must also emphasize the need to link knowledge to action across all sectors. Also, there's a need to support coherent African representation in global ocean science diplomacy, such as the UN Ocean Conference coming up, the BBNJ Treaty, and the Plastic Treaty. Excellency, the Nairobi Environmental Diplomacy Symposium is a timely reminder that diplomacy is also about narrative. IOC Africa, we will strive to support African member states in shaping and advancing their own ocean science narrative, including the government of Kenya. We are interested in amplifying regional voices, national voices, facilitating cooperation and enabling leadership grounded in evidence and shared priorities. We believe that this kind of gathering should be a reminder, not simply as a discussion on the state of ocean science, but also the moment Africa affirmed its determination to lead with purpose, build with knowledge, and partner with unity. Ocean science is not just about discovery. It is about dignity, it is about self-determination, and shaping the continent's future on its own terms. Thank you very much.
Highlighting the indispensable link between science, oceans, and diplomacy in addressing today's global challenges. We appreciate your comments. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me now invite the ICT team to play a pre-recorded video statement by His Excellency Arnold Adre, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Worship of the Republic of Costa Rica, a country celebrated for its environmental sustainability. Kindly proceed on.
Friends, warm regards from Costa Rica. I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, warm regards in Costa Rica, and to the I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, warm regards in Costa Rica, and to the I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, warm regards in Costa Rica. I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, warm regards in Costa Rica. I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, warm regards in Costa Rica. I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Foreign and Diaspora Affairs.
One minute, Your Excellency.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues and friends, warm regards from Costa Rica. I begin by expressing my gratitude to the Ministry of Foreign
Thank you.
and Diaspora Affairs of the Republic of Kenya and to the Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi for convening this second Environmental Diplomacy Symposium. Environmental diplomacy is more than a foreign policy tool. It is a necessity. Climate change, pollution, biodiversity loss, and the degradation of our ocean know no borders. These shared threats demand shared solutions, rooted in multilateralism, science, and justice. That's why, building on the foundations laid by Kenya and Portugal during the second United Nations Ocean Conference, UNOC 2, Costa Rica is proud to co-host the third United Nations Ocean Conference, UNOC 3, with France this June in Nice. We aim to drive inclusive, science-based ocean action in three key areas. One, advancing global processes like the Treaty to End Plastic Pollution, the BBNJ Agreement, and reforms to harmful fisheries subsidies. 2. Mobilizing resources for a sustainable blue economy, particularly for coastal and island nations. 3. Elevating ocean science to guide bold public policy. This is our chance to close the gap between commitments and implementation, especially for SDG 14, which underpins many other development goals. Costa Rica also champions a precautionary pause on deep-sea mining, an urgent call now supported by over 32 countries, scientists, and civil society, as we lack the science to ensure marine protection. Furthermore, as many of you know, the resumed fifth session of negotiations for the development of a legally binding instrument on plastic pollution is scheduled for August in Geneva. For Costa Rica, this treaty must be ambitious, enforceable, and based on the full life cycle approach. To succeed, it must also be supported by strong financing, capacity building, and technology transfer, demands that we, alongside countries in Latin America and Africa, will continue to voice. For all these challenges, we must engage the public, especially youth, women, and local communities. Your voices and knowledge are essential to crafting durable environmental diplomacy solutions. Together, we can turn the tide for our ocean, for our planet, and for our future. Asante sana.
Thank you so much,
Your Excellency.
Your Excellency.
Musalia.
We appreciate you, Your Excellency. I invite also the ICT team to play a second pre-recorded statement from His Excellency Mr. Anif Faisal, Minister of Environment, Head of the Environmental Protection Agency of the Republic of Indonesia.
Muda
Welcome.
Fadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Your Excellency Deborah Brasa, Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. Your Excellency Zainab Hawa Bagura, Director General United Nations Office at Nairobi. Excellency, distinguished participant. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greeting from Jakarta, Indonesia. Saya mengucapkan selamat kepada yang terhormat pemerintah Kenya atas terselenggaranya Symposium Diplomasi Lingkungan Nairobi kedua, the second Nairobi Environmental Diplomacy Symposium needs to. Pertemuan ini harus menjadi simpulan untuk menentukan langkah bersama yang harus kita lakukan dalam pertemuan yang lebih besar, yaitu Konferensi Kelautan PBB ketiga dan perundingan polusi plastik putaran kelima bagian kedua INC 5.2. Kita harus maju dan berjuang bersama untuk melakukan percepatan penghentian polusi plastik dan pengurangan secara masif penggunaan plastik yang tidak ramah lingkungan. Kita semua harus menghargai dan dapat mendorong partisipasi inklusif yang melibatkan berbagai pihak seperti pemerintah, akademisi, pelajar, dan masyarakat sipil dalam melakukan percepatan terkait dengan berbagai upaya mengatasi polusi plastik. Semua pihak harus bertanggung jawab untuk mengatasi dan menghentikan polusi plastik. Kita harus terus memperkuat komitmen dan tekad yang teguh untuk melanjutkan agenda pembangunan lingkungan hidup global seperti pengendalian perubahan iklim, kehilangan keanekaragaman hayati, polusi, dan pencapaian tujuan berkelanjutan. Melalui KBRI Nairobi, Indonesia telah berupaya melaksanakan berbagai inisiatif program-program lingkungan PBB, antara lain resolusi pengelolaan danau berkelanjutan pada UNIA 5.2 tahun 2022 menuju peringatan Hari Danau Sedunia pada tanggal 27 Agustus tahun 2025. Kami juga mempromosikan penyelesaian berbagai isu-isu lingkungan global seperti isu air, mangrove, gambut, dan polusi plastik selaku Wakil Presiden UNIA 5 periode tahun 2019-2022. Indonesia menjadi salah satu pemeran utama dalam negosiasi INC sejak revolusi UNIA 514 yang mengadvokasi masuknya isu kelestarian lingkungan laut dalam kerangka polusi plastik. Kami paham bahwa ada beberapa isu di dalam draft perjanjian internasional yang mengikat terkait dengan polusi plastik belum dapat kita selesaikan bersama. Namun, kemajuan signifikan sudah dicapai di beberapa area kunci. Kita harus terus bersama-sama menekankan pentingnya penyelesaian INC 5.2 di Jenewa dengan cara efektif, berimbang, dan dapat dilaksanakan. Guna menjamin hal tersebut, kita harus terus bersama-sama mengusulkan dan mendorong serta berjuang agar perjanjian internasional harus pertama menciptakan kondisi yang memungkinkan bagi negara berkembang untuk mendapat dukungan pendanaan, transfer teknologi, penggunaan material plastik ramah lingkungan biodegradable, peningkatan kapasitas dan komitmen yang fleksibel dalam menghadapi polusi plastik dengan tetap melaksanakan pembangunan berkelanjutan. Kedua, mematuhi konsensus yang dapat terus mendorong dilakukannya dialog yang luas dan kompromi guna mengurangi perbedaan pendapat yang tajam sehingga perjanjian internasional dapat diterima semua pihak sesuai dengan kondisi dan keadaan masing-masing negara. Ketiga, memegang teguh inklusivitas dengan melibatkan seluruh pihak seperti pemerintah, masyarakat, akademisi, dan masyarakat sipil untuk menjamin bahwa perjanjian internasional tersebut dapat mencerminkan realita yang ada di semua negara, khususnya negara-negara berkembang. Keempat, mewujudkan prinsip tanggung jawab bersama namun dibedakan, Common but Differentiated Responsibilities atau CBDR, yang mengakui tugas bersama untuk memerangi polusi plastik sekaligus menyediakan dukungan khusus bagi negara-negara berkembang sehingga mereka dapat bertindak tanpa mengorbankan berbagai tujuan pembangunan nasionalnya. Kita harus dapat mendorong tanggung jawab semua pihak. Kemudian yang kelima, mendukung pendekatan bottom up melalui rencana aksi nasional yang menyesuaikan kebijakan dengan konteks dan prioritas lokal, seperti memasukkan isu sampah laut dalam pengelolaan sampah di suatu negara sekaligus menyelaraskannya dengan tujuan global. Keenam, mempromosikan dan mempercepat penerapan ekonomi sirkuler di dalam mendorong produksi dan konsumsi yang bertanggung jawab guna mengurangi polusi plastik. Selanjutnya, sejalan dengan tujuan pembangunan berkelanjutan SDGs dan Agenda 2030 harus dapat memastikan bahwa upaya mengatasi polusi plastik dapat berkontribusi terhadap tujuan 12 dari SDGs yang bertanggung jawab dan tujuan ke-14 dari SDGs, yaitu kehidupan di bawah air. Sejalan dengan komitmen global untuk mengakhiri polusi plastik, Indonesia telah menjalankan berbagai strategi dan aksi-aksi mulai dari hulu sampai ke hilir. Antara lain meliputi mengatur kebijakan pelarangan secara bertahap, phase out beberapa jenis plastik sekali pakai seperti kantong plastik, sedotan plastik, dan alat makan minum plastik pada tahun 2029. Menghentikan impor sampah plastik untuk bahan baku daur ulang sejak November tahun 2024 untuk mencegah polusi plastik di dalam negeri. Selanjutnya, mengusulkan pelarangan dan pembatasan impor plastik virgin pada Menteri Perdagangan pada Januari 2025 guna meningkatkan kebutuhan plastik daur ulang dan mendorong pengembangan bahan-bahan alternatif yang ramah lingkungan dan berkelanjutan. Memperkuat kebijakan terkait dengan tanggung jawab produsen yang diperluas atau Extended Producer Responsibility (EPR) dengan cara meningkatkan regulasi EPR dari tingkat peraturan menteri ke tingkat regulasi yang lebih tinggi, menerapkan sanksi yang ketat, memperkuat tata kelola untuk memastikan akuntabilitas di seluruh rantai pasok plastik dapat kita kendalikan. Melaksanakan berbagai kegiatan nasional, diantaranya bersih sungai, bersih pantai sejak Januari tahun 2025, terutama di daerah-daerah destinasi wisata seperti Bali, Pangandaran, dan melibatkan seluruh komponen masyarakat dan dunia usaha. Mengenakan sanksi paksaan pemerintah kepada pemerintah daerah dan dengan menghentikan praktek open dumping sejak Maret tahun 2025 yang memandatkan kepada pemerintah daerah untuk mengoperasionalkan tempat pemrosesan akhir sampah dengan sistem sanitary landfill atau minimal control landfill. Selanjutnya, memperkuat pengelolaan sampah plastik, peningkatan pemanfaatan sampah menjadi energi listrik, waste to energy pada target 33 kota besar di seluruh Indonesia yang memiliki jumlah timbunan sampah plastik harian mencapai 1.000 ton dalam kurun waktu 2025-2029. Sebagai negara besar, Indonesia membutuhkan dukungan dari semua pihak untuk dapat mempercepat berbagai upaya penghentian polusi plastik dan menerapkan pengelolaan sampah berkelanjutan. Excellency, distinguished participant, kita semua harus yakin dan percaya atas kepemimpinan Duta Besar Luis Fayas Valdivisio akan dapat memandu jalannya proses perundingan INC 5.2 secara efektif. Kami mengucapkan terima kasih kepada pemerintah negara Kenya dan Universitas Starmore serta seluruh pihak yang berkolaborasi dalam acara ini. Semoga NETS2 dapat memperkuat kepedulian dan kemajuan dalam mengatasi polusi plastik di tingkat global, nasional, dan lokal. Asanteni sana. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Asanteni sana. Thank you so much, Mr. Nurifin, for your clear, concise, and impactful statement. And yes, you could see the statement went on until my cabinet minister called me to, we were looking at it at that INC 5.2, Your Excellency, we are looking at the EPR regulations, the sanctions, and the governance structures, and we could associate with all the comments from the Minister. We appreciate that. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the beautiful part of it, sir, that it is now my distinguished honor to invite my Cabinet Secretary, Dr. Deborah Barasa, the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry of the Republic of Kenya, a tireless champion of environmental sustainability and policy reform, to deliver a statement. Karibu sana Waziri. I think you will continue from where your colleague minister left. Karibu sana.
Sante, thank you so much. Your Excellency, the Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Engineer Festus Ngeno, Principal Secretary, State Department for Environment and Climate Change, Professor Mwenda Ntarangwi, the Vice Chancellor, USIU Africa, Mr. Ibukun Adewumi, Head of the UNESCO IOC Sub-Commission for Africa and Adjacent Island States, Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the academia, civil society, and the private sector, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is with great pleasure that I speak to you today at the second edition of the Nairobi Environmental Diplomacy Symposium, an engagement that serves as a formidable forum for group reflective thinking, education discussion, and proactive discussion on the most pressing environmental challenges of our day. Let me start by expressing my sincerest gratitude to the co-organizers of this symposium, the Ministry for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, the delegations of the European Union to Kenya, the embassies of France, Costa Rica, Eritrea, and Indonesia, USIU Africa, the Kenya Foreign Service Academy, the Stockholm Environment Institutes, among others. Your spirit of cooperation, highlights the value of partnership and multilateralism in the search for long-term environmental solutions. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, this second edition of the Nairobi Environmental Symposium could not be more timely or critical as we prepare for the third United Nations Ocean Conference, that is UNOC3 in Nice, France, and the resumed fifth session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, INC 5.2, on plastic pollution in Geneva. This forum offers us a crucial moment to align our national and regional priorities with the global agenda. The ocean serves as our planet's lung, regulating the climate, providing food, and boosting economies. However, unsustainable practices, biodiversity loss, acidification, and marine pollution pose a growing threat to them. Accelerating action on SDG 14, life below water, is both morally and collectively required of us as stewards of land and marine ecosystems. Kenya has made tremendous progress in marine conservation by creating marine protected areas, outlawing single-use plastic in protected areas, and promoting blue economy initiatives. But we can't do it by ourselves. We are still dedicated to supporting the Nice Ocean Action Declaration and pushing for the inclusion of voices from the Global South, particularly from coastal communities and small island developing states, as we prepare to present our national position at UNOC3. Kenya took the lead in Africa by banning the plastic carrier bags in 2017 and extended the ban to single-use plastics in protected areas, forests, and beaches in 2020. In addition, Kenya restricts plastic pollution through the Sustainable Waste Management Policy and Act that requires all producers to bear the extended producer responsibility for products placed on the Kenyan market. Most recently, Kenya has enacted regulations on the management and control of plastic packaging materials and extended producer responsibility. Please let us applaud because of that. So Kenya therefore applauds again the progress made through the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee process to develop an internationally legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution, including in the marine environment. The INC process has laid a promising foundation, but critical differences persist from treaty scopes and rules of procedure to design standards and chemicals of concern. Kenya firmly supports a comprehensive, legally enforceable international agreement, and it is our hope that the negotiations will be finalized and adopted during the resumed session of INC 5.2, meeting scheduled for August 2025 in Geneva. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, this symposium therefore serves as a springboard for concerted diplomatic actions rather than just a discussion. I implore all parties involved, governments, academic institutions, civil societies, the private sector, and the young people to participate positively, question presumptions, and provide answers. Let this meeting result in clear and practical messages that Kenya and her allies can take to Nice and Geneva. Let us keep in mind that diplomacy is not just the art of negotiation, but also the architecture of hope, a hope that cuts beyond boundaries, ideologies, and short-term interests as we gather today under the common banner of environmental diplomacy. Let's reaffirm our shared commitment to preserving the ocean, putting a stop to plastic waste, and defending future generations' right to a clean and healthy environment. I wish you fruitful discussions and look forward to the outcomes of this important symposium. Thank you very much. And so with those few remarks, let us all be upstanding as we welcome the Prime Cabinet Secretary to address us during this occasion. Thank you.
Please be seated. Our host, Professor Mwenda Tarangwi, Vice Chancellor, United States International University, Africa. My colleague, Deborah Barasa, Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. Minister Arnoldo Andre, who has participated virtually from Costa Rica. Her Excellency Hanif Nurofik, Minister for Environment. His Excellency, rather, Hanif Nurofik, Minister for Environment, Head of Environmental Protection Agency of the Republic of Indonesia, who we have listened to virtually. P.S. Ngeno, Principal Secretary, State Department for Environment and Climate Change. Dr. Ibukun Adewumi, Head of the UNESCO IOC Subcommission for Africa and Adjacent Islands. Madam Sheila Agarwal Khan, Director representing UNEP Executive Director. Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the academic staff of the United States International University for Africa, members of the civil society, distinguished guests, students, and the embodiment of the world ahead, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just transiting from morning to afternoon, I believe. I am pleased to join you at this second edition of the Nairobi Environmental Diplomacy Symposium. We inaugurated this forum in February to create a reliable and consistent space for free exchange of information, knowledge, and expertise on environmental matters. I commend the Ministry of Environment and Forestry and my team at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, together with the delegation of the European Union to Kenya, the Embassy of the French Republic, Embassy of the Costa Rica, and the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia for co-organizing this symposium. To the Stockholm Environment Institute Africa Center, the Center for International Forestry Research and World Agroforestry, and the Kenya Foreign Service Academy, I also say thank you for your support. And indeed, our host, the United States International University, Africa, you deserve applause. Similarly, I thank all of you present here today for your participation in this symposium. So let me briefly touch on the substance of why we are here. In relation to the UN Ocean Conference, it is evident that the ocean, which covers about 71% of the Earth's surface, remains crucial to humankind. It facilitates nearly 80 to 90% of the global trade volume. Additionally, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development estimates that oceans create about 100 million full-time jobs. The ocean is also a vital mass for food and nutritional security. Some studies show that it provides around 2% of the global calorie intake and between 15 to 20% of the animal protein. The ocean is the largest ecosystem on Earth, serving as home to about 94% of the planet's wildlife. The United Nations estimates the ocean generates 50% of all the oxygen and absorbs 25% of carbon dioxide and retains 90% of the excess heat caused by carbon emissions. These facts and figures imply that the ocean is an indispensable global climate regulator, besides its immense socioeconomic benefits to humanity. As such, the ocean is a dynamic, life-sustaining ecosystem without which the stability of the planetary systems will be endangered. Yet still, these benefits of the ocean are increasingly under threat and may not be sustainable in the long term. The illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, deep-sea mining, and maritime crimes such as piracy are undermining the benefits of the ocean. Further, pollution has become a major threat to the ocean, leading to ocean acidification, death of corals, and loss of aquatic species. Worrying statistics by UNEP reveal that between 19 to 23 million metric tons of plastic waste are dumped each year into aquatic ecosystems. It is more perturbing that the world continues to produce over 460 million tons of plastics each year. It is projected by 2040, about 23 to 37 million tons of waste will be yearly dumped in the ocean. Clearly, therefore, we must urgently take mitigation actions, and the UNOC3 must provide some solutions to maintain ocean health and optimize the marine economy. In this regard, I propose that UNOC3 should endeavor to achieve three critical outcomes, namely, laying the ground for the establishment of Ocean Science Policy Panel, adopting a robust instruments that can drive sustainable clean ocean governance, while it should entail going beyond merely creating sustainable ocean plans, and ratifying the BBNJ agreement and the Fisheries Subsidies Agreement to rapidly and effectively and equitably implementation of these agreements and establishing a UN Ocean Finance Facility to enhance access to financing and to support marine restoration and resilience, as well as the coastal communities. Turning to INC 5.2, I recommend the following. First, we should aim to adopt an international, legally binding instrument to end plastic pollution this August in Geneva. The instrument should cover the full life cycle of plastics, backed by provision of requisite financial resources, technology, and capacity building. Second, the world needs to adopt multifaceted approaches that can power the much-needed just transitioning to green development pathways. And third, we must phase out single-use plastics while promoting use of biodegradables and circular economy. Ladies and gentlemen, the international environmental governance remains fragmented. This has resulted in policy inconsistency, minimal cooperation with increased competition among multilateral environment agreements. There's a lot of duplication and less effective outcomes given the limited resources given that limited resources are living with us now. Together, let us build on the current progress to achieve consensus in all the upcoming meetings. Africa has already taken a bold decision to support UNEP as the Secretariat of the Plastic Treaty. This is a major step towards streamlining international environmental governance in line with the spirit and letter of paragraph 88 of the Future We Want. The outcome document, which calls for the consolidation of the UNEP headquarter functions in Nairobi. I thank you. Maybe let me just take this opportunity to really appreciate that I was sharing a podium with, was it Waini? Yes. It's a privilege and it's an honor when you see a young person speaking so eloquently, passionately. Then we know that the future is in good hands. So I want to thank you for a very good presentation. The other thing I just want to emphasize, the last few sentences of my statement. I want to put it on record that we are really privileged and honored as Kenya to host the UNEP and Habitat headquarters, the only one in the Global South. And we are also alive to the fact that the United Nations has committed over the next few years to a major expansion of the facility in Nairobi. They're going to spend over $350 million to be able to expand the facility so that it can host many more functions of the United Nations, and at the same time have the capacity to host a General Assembly, basically putting it at par with the headquarters in New York and at par with Geneva. So I want this to be on record, because people are throwing around a lot of unnecessary information, almost giving the impression that Kenya does not appreciate that the United Nations has such a major footprint in this country. We are fully alive to it. And the government of Kenya is in turn working progressively in consultation with them so that we can continue to improve the facilities that will make Nairobi even more accessible and more friendly to a broad section of international organizations that want to make Nairobi their station. This is something we cherish, we value, and we will continue to work with the international community so that that opportunity is fully exploited for the benefit of Kenya and indeed of the international community. So this is important that I convey this message at a forum like this so that people can know that Kenya and the Kenyans that are in here and outside are keen to see even more presence of the United Nations and other international entities in Kenya. Finally, we are also having a conversation because in the long-term plans, we are also having a conversation because the UN would also want to make Nairobi their logistical and humanitarian hub in the global south. So again, these are delicate conversations that we continue to have. We are looking at also reviewing our Privileges and Immunities Act so that we can work towards making this the preferred destination for international organizations. And why we are so keen to have the plastics treaty domiciled here is because this is the headquarters for UNEP. And if we are looking at managing resources well, and this was part of the conversation in the C80 conversation at the United Nations, then rationally, it makes a lot of sense to consolidate. And since the UNEP is here, the consolidation would make a lot of sense in the whole rationalization that is going on within the global framework, taking into account that resources have become scarce for many sectors. We have seen whether it is health, whether it is agriculture, whether it is education, even for security matters, resources are becoming scarce. So it calls on all of us, not just as the international community, but even as nations, to become even more prudent in the utilization of the resources that are available at this point in time. So I think I've said my piece. I want you to have a good engagement for the rest of the day, and we look forward to your concrete recommendations as the rapporteurs of the symposium will eventually forward and help us as we move forward. Asanteni sana. God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We really appreciate you for your statement. It has been delivered with clarity, conciseness, persuasion, and the impact it has carried within.
Very